Live to see it, friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. At The World Transformed, we want to introduce you to the biggest transformation of them all, the one that begins with considering and acting on the almost limitless possibilities that lie ahead, and that ends somewhere beyond the reach of the human imagination. So when does that amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
Well, I'm super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Great, man, great.
Here we are.
It's the show tonight.
Yeah, it's the middle of the week, and we've got a good, juicy middle of the week topic. I've noticed that we seem to land on kind of philosophical topics on Wednesdays. Don't know why that is, but that's where we've been landing. And this one is a little more practical than philosophical, but it's got a strong philosophical undercurrent. We're talking about humanity's next steps, the evolutionary path. And I'll just give you a little sneak preview, a little spoiler warning. Friday we're going to talk about humanity's next steps, the path to obsolescence. So we're going to talk about, are we on our way up or are we on our way out? And tonight we're talking about, are we on our way up? We're going to talk about do-it-yourself evolution. We did a show about this probably 3 weeks ago. I think we called it Humanity Revised. Was that the name of the show? It's talking about people augmenting themselves, people making modifications, changes to themselves. Well, tonight we're going to talk about that same idea, but with this added philosophical quandary, right? Are we augmenting ourselves in an upward direction? Are we augmenting ourselves in such a way that we are becoming the next stage of evolution for humanity? Are we heading somewhere as we make these kinds of changes? And if so, is it the direction that we want to be going in? And is it the direction that helps preclude what we'll be talking about on Friday? So that's kind of the parameters around how this show is a little bit different from how we talked about it before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in. We've got three big stories that talk about human evolution. They talk about them in very different ways, and the third one talks about it. I think some would even object, some would even resist whether that one is a story about human evolution, but we'll get to that one. This first one definitely is. Genetically modified babies. It's really happening, Stephen.
It has happened.
Our
Yes.
first foray into genetic engineering. We've got babies that have what, more than two parents, right?
That's right, a third parent. And in a way, this is put it to you this way. In the movie Gattaca,
Right.
very, very, very good movie.
If you haven't seen Gattaca,
go see
stop the show, go watch Gattaca, come back
and
to
then
us.
come back.
We're always
we'll be
available.
We'll be waiting for
We'll
you.
be waiting for you, yes.
But at any rate, in the movie Gattaca, spoiler alert, the technology is genetically modified babies. You can pick and choose certain attributes that your baby can have.
Right.
But these genetically modified babies are superior to normal faith-born, is what they call it.
Right.
Normal faith-born babies in just about every way, in life expectancy and intelligence and strength and dexterity and looks. They're just beautiful people. It's just better all around. And so, it's almost considered child abuse to do it any other way, right? Because if you have the opportunity to give birth to someone who will fit into the world versus someone who really won't, then it's sort of a bad way to go with faith birth.
And I would add that it's not just a crime against that kid. It's not just child abuse to do that. In that world, it's seen as kind of a crime against society.
Right.
That you've really taken a step backward against the direction that society wants to move when you do that.
That's exactly right. And so anyone that is not genetically modified has pretty much, you're born, strike three, you're out.
Right.
I mean, you just
Right.
you don't get to be a full participant in the world just because you don't have the right DNA tucked under your arm, is what they said at one point. And so the wrong helix under your arm.
Yeah, exactly.
So here, this in a way is in some ways even more radical than what they're describing in Gattaca. Not because these babies are going to be necessarily super like those babies, but it was always in Gattaca. It was two parents. It was like
Right.
these babies will be 100% you, but it'll be the very best of you. You could
Right.
conceive 1,000 times and not have a baby as perfect as this baby. This is a 1 in a million. If everything just worked out perfect, 1 in a million shot, this is what you'd get. But we can guarantee that you get your 1 in a million baby by doing it this way.
Right.
But this is three parents. They're actually adding a third parent to the mix, which is, in some ways, I suppose you could argue that's even more radical than Gattaca. It comes down to these particular babies. It's 30 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Have come from mothers who were having trouble conceiving because of mitochondrial DNA errors.
Right.
And so the third parent is, and it's another woman, is contributing only mitochondrial DNA.
Right. See, so now you've just. I like the way you walked it up and then you walked it back down. Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It sounds really radical and really creepy. Three parents. That's just like, wow, how's that work? And until you get to what are they doing with this third? The third parent comes in, and that's the one with the laser vision gene that they're building into these children. Or something. It's not, no. This is a treatment for infertility, basically, is what this is. It's really a treatment for the mother more than it is for the for the baby. Although technically the baby inherits the new mitochondrial DNA in their germline, and so voila, we do have a genetically engineered baby. But there's no effort here to make super babies. No effort here to make super good looking babies, super smart babies, master race, any of that kind of stuff. It's just an interesting new way to treat infertility, a very specific genetically driven kind of infertility with a genetic treatment for it. And yet it suggests everything that you said, to the point that if you read this article that we've linked at Blog Talk Radio and over at worldtransform.com, this is immediately where the story goes.
Right.
It says geneticists fear that one day this method could be used to create new races of humans with extra desired characteristics such as strength or high intelligence. Okay, I want to go back to the verb of that sentence. Stephen, why do geneticists fear that?
I think that they fear it because they know that it's possible.
Why is that a thing to be feared? Okay.
Well,
extra desired characteristics such as strength and height. Wouldn't it be better if people were stronger and smarter? Why are we afraid of that?
Well, because we're too stupid to know that we need it. I don't know.
I mean, I think I do know the reason. I think it smacks of Hitler, right? I mean, that's the thing. People think of master races, and they think of what's the word I'm not able to. Eugenics, absolutely.
And there was a time, like even in the United States, when state fairs would have contests where you'd bring in children just like your prized pig, and they'd slap a ribbon on it. This is and it was more than just a
really
contest.
State fairs.
Oh yeah, and then of course
to see who bred the best kids.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, now of course we have baby beauty contests, which are just what to do.
Yeah.
In their own ways. Sorry if I'm talking to any parents that do that stuff, but any rate, it strikes me as strange. Different strokes for different folks, but strikes me as strange. But at any rate, eugenics. There was a time in the United States, not just in Nazi Germany, where we were sterilizing people that were mentally handicapped, and we did all kinds of terrible things in the name of trying to stomp out or to improve the race.
Right.
And so it has a lot of negative connotations. But there's going to if things are possible, if the technology allows people to do things for the sake of their own children, people will do these things. And we were very uncomfortable as a country, the idea of test tube babies until they came,
Right.
And all of a sudden, when test tube babies were everywhere because people who weren't able to have kids before now have an option, and they have kids, and they turn out to be beautiful, normal kids. Just as likely to turn out to be terrible or great as any other kid. then people got comfortable with the idea. And when it's the kid down the hall, it's and not the Frankenstein monster that we were afraid it was, then you tend to accept things like that. I think that the same can be said for babies like this. These 30 babies, which are said to be, according to the article, healthy and fine, will be fully accepted. And I think when we start to tinker around and try to make super babies, I think there's going to be more resistance there. But still, I think that a lot of that will be done in secret. All of a sudden, just a lot of smart babies start showing up, and I wonder how this happened. Is probably the way that's going to go.
I think smart babies, sure. How about just babies that never eventually need glasses?
Oh yeah.
Babies that never eventually need orthodonture, right? I mean, it seems to me that when those things are achievable, why wouldn't you do them? We've talked about this before. Of course, no one's in favor of Gattaca, and I would be violently opposed to the idea of telling who can and can't have children, or any of the horrible things that have gone on in the past. But when you're just talking about, we're going to produce a child, we want that child to be smart and strong and capable and not ill. It just seems like a thing parents are going to do. It's really, not anybody trying to design or master race, but just what parents want for their kids.
Right.
Is ultimately going to take charge. But as a planned step for evolution, I think it's one we have to wait a while on. I think it's one that we can't jump right to, for exactly the reason you just said, Stephen. It's going to happen in secret,
Yeah.
and you'll have a generation that will grow up having been modified, and they're not going to be nearly as skittish about the whole thing. Just like I'm sure that children who were produced from in vitro fertilization don't have any objection whatsoever to the practice.
Well, there's one thing that is brought up a couple of times in this article, and they're saying this represents a new thing, germline manipulation.
Right.
These kids will grow up, fall in love, have babies of their own, and those babies will be carrying modifications that have been introduced by us. Humanity is tampering with its own code now.
Right.
And it's a permanent thing. And so is that a good thing? Is at least it's something that needs to be discussed. Obviously, ethicists will need to look at this carefully and to say, what kind of changes to the germline should we be doing, and what kind and are okay and are ethically okay, and then what changes are not okay. And so anyway, it's absolutely interesting. This is profound news. This is huge.
It is.
This is huge.
Absolutely huge. And I think, to your point, I wish that the response could be, wow, this could be a way to ease suffering, to make life better. We have to be very careful about how we implement it, if we do at all, rather than we fear this. Yeah. Right? The immediate response is fear. We're going in a bad direction. This is, by definition, this is a bad way to go. I think that's really unfortunate, and that's going to be a big stumbling block to achieving evolution along these lines. I really think it will, for at least for a generation or so. But there are other alternatives, and that's kind of the way we're working through our topics this evening. I should add, we're starting with the hardest one, the one that stands to produce the biggest results, and the one that's, I think, the hardest to introduce from a societal perspective. Now, the next example we have is not as bad, because it's an example of designer adult. And we're talking about curing aging with stem cells. And Stephen, you found a really interesting article about this.
Yes, a billionaire in the Bahamas. And what is this guy's name? It's Peter Nygard. I guess that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Peter Nygard, a billionaire in the Bahamas, has decided that getting old and ill and more frail is that sucks. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Let's go another way. And so he has been, for the last 4 years, he's been giving him not giving himself. He's been participating in stem cell therapy, and to what extent that what exactly are we talking about? The article doesn't really say. I don't know that he has really disclosed the way the therapy is being administered. It might be something as simple as basically giving himself young Peter Nygard blood. I
Right.
mean, it might
Right.
be something as simple as that, saying, you know what, this old Peter Nygard blood is just making me older, and if I give myself blood that's been basically grown from my own stem cells, from embryonic type stem cells, and grown into basically a young person's blood, but that genetically matches my own, does better. So, and according to the billionaire, he's gone to Florida on a couple of occasions, and has had various tests run, and there are various markers that he says shows that he's actually getting younger. And number one, I'm not even sure if those markers truly exist, Phil. It was a few years back that we were looking at this while visiting with on similar topics, and the markers weren't even known to exist. So
Right.
perhaps science has marched on in that way as well, where we can kind of look at somebody and say, your biological age is this, and which is more or less what your actual what your actual age is. So he is saying that he's getting younger. There was a lot of negative comments, just like negative comments to these genetically engineered babies. There's a whole lot of negative comments about this guy. Saying, well, he still looks pretty dang old to me. Well,
Right. Well, there were a lot of negative comments, but I'd make a
yeah,
big distinction between the two stories,
yeah,
which is the negative comments in the one story were, this is the wrong direction for humanity, this is bad, this is evil. The negative comments around this one were, I don't think this works. Right. That was
yeah.
that was the bottom line. And it sounded like some people were bringing maybe some of the baggage around this individual into the discussion too, which has
Yeah,
nothing to do with it.
Maybe he's not a great guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
He might be the best guy in the world. But apparently there are some people that dislike him.
Well, if you go to the BBC story, okay, that we've linked, the two young women, very attractive young women that he's in the photo with, who look like they're about 45 years younger than him, they seem to think he's okay. So, whether
in a rather I get a Hugh Hefner vibe off of that, and I'll leave it at that.
But all that's to say is, whatever he's doing, it's not working on his face, right? He's not. I'm saying he's not shooting Botox in or something like that. He's obviously trying to do something internally, because he looks old. He looks like an old guy, and
he looks perfectly happy in that particular picture.
But and who wouldn't be? He looks like he's at a party or something, having a nice time.
Yeah.
My point is, this seems to be okay with people. Now, anti-aging eventually does lead to this discussion, this objection about, well, the world will become overpopulated, blah, 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 once they take the idea seriously. But no one is saying this is the wrong direction for humanity. You can't have a man injecting himself with his own stem cells to try to improve his health, right? I don't hear anyone saying that.
Well, here's my thoughts on it. I think that the guy should be heralded as a pioneer. I think that there's a great likelihood that he's either going to waste a lot of money, which if you're a billionaire, I suppose you could do and still be very rich.
Yep.
Or he actually hurts his health, because that's the thing with experimental medicine. There's always the question of effectiveness or efficacy, and of course safety. And that's the deal. If you're experimenting, there's a tendency for the things that you're trying to either not work very well or it actually be harmful. And so I wish the man well. Obviously, he has the desire to reduce his own age, to be healthy and everything. But by doing so, by experimenting on himself, we as humanity may learn some things. And,
if it works and it becomes a real treatment, eventually people like us will benefit.
That's right.
Eventually it'll become available for people like us.
And I think it's interesting that it's in the Bahamas. I think that I think that we're going to see and everything, it's a billionaire. I think that's that could be just about predicted. If you'd asked me who's going to do this and where, I would have said, well, it's going to be somebody super rich. It's going to be it's going to be in a country other than the United States where there's no FDA to stop experimentation. And it's going to be somebody that's old that his other option is frailty and death.
Right.
And so so you got all three here. You got an old rich guy in a place that he's able to experiment. And so,
Stephen, the bottom line
good
is
luck, good luck. Good
there
luck.
is exciting futuristic stuff going on in the Bahamas. You and I need to go investigate. I think we'll just
Yeah, exactly.
let's go check it out. I agree with you. I agree with you. He's working around the fringes, and so now we've gotten a little bit closer. This is something where you don't see the forces of society rising up against him, saying, this is the wrong way to go. And he's found a good environment in which to give it a try. So are we moving up? Are we modifying ourselves? Are we evolving ourselves? Well, he's given it a shot, and it's a very interesting shot, and I'll be interested to see. Now, our third story doesn't even seem to be about evolution. This one was actually a piece in Forbes, and the title is The Superpower. What was it called? It's The Superpower We All Need: Learning to Learn Faster, the one superpower everyone needs. And we talk about this fellow with the perfect name, Jim Quick, who is not just a speed reader, but a speed learner, and a guy who spent a good deal of time researching and I would say not just looking into, but demonstrating ways that people can learn more quickly than they have learned in the past. And I guess he's got a big project going now with some other familiar names. Let me read this quote here. This is very interesting stuff. If I can find it. Well, I had it somewhere. But Peter Diamandis and some others are involved in a project that Jim Quick has put together to get a large group of people working on this problem of how can we learn faster. What do you think, Stephen? Is that a step in our evolution? Is this an attempt to evolve ourselves?
Well, it could definitely be a step in the restructuring of education. You know what I'm saying? It's I believe that the way that we teach, first kids in K through 12, and then also adults in college and thereafter, a lot of it is just we waste a lot of time. We waste a lot of time on things like that. I learned it was a lesson that I learned when I was an undergraduate, was that I was my own best professor. And the way one of the ways I learned that was that it was the college student that has the nightmare that they never go to class. They
Right.
signed up for something and they never went to class.
I still have that dream sometimes. By the
Do
way.
you really?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Well, guess what? I actually did that. I signed up for trigonometry
And then forgot about it?
and completely forgot about it, and got about 2/3 through the semester, and the professor meets me in the hall and says, Stephen, why don't you're on my roster and you haven't been a single time. It's like, what do I do? You're going to give me an F? What's the deal? And he says, look, here's the deal. I've had you in other classes. It's you're a good student. Here I will give you all the tests, and you're going to take every single one of the tests in a single day, and good luck with that. And here's the day that you're going to come take the test. And so you haven't been to any of the classes, but I'm still going to I'm going to give you the tests, and you can take them, and we'll do this, and you can get credit if you can do well on it. I got an A in the class, Phil.
Wow.
and the
And look at the time you saved.
Well, yeah. I mean, I took the text and taught myself trigonometry inside of one weekend.
Wow.
And I mean, it's one of those things that it turned out that I could bring it in to here better than any, sitting there passively trying to soak it in for a semester. Obviously I was also motivated by the fact that I was
You
scared
were
to
highly
fail.
motivated,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, I was highly motivated, but I learned a valuable lesson
But
from
it
that.
raises
And
the question, how much more of what you learned in college could have been learned along those same lines that much, how long did college really need to go on, right? Maybe
yeah,
not 4 years, maybe
maybe
not
one
even
year as
two
opposed
years. Yeah.
to four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. One of the things Quick says here, he says, if Rip Van Winkle woke up today, the only thing he would recognize is our education system. It was created for 18th century needs to train people to work in factories or the farm. We've talked about all this before, and he's absolutely right. So I think that not only is the focusing on our ability to learn faster an evolutionary step, it's probably the most important prerequisite step we can take. We've got to change our thinking if we're going to be able to address creating designer adults or creating designer babies. If we're gonna get to the point where we get comfortable with the stem cells, if we're gonna get to the point where we get comfortable with germline engineering of babies, it's going to be because we're thinking faster, we're learning better, and we're understanding things more. So this is probably the critical evolutionary step that we have to take. We got to get smarter. We got to get smarter,
That's right.
and we have to get smarter faster. So I look at this one and I say, anyone who's working on making us smarter is definitely helping us to evolve in the direction that we need to go.
If there's one superpower that we could get, it's super intelligence. That gets us everything else. Every other superpower that we would desire can be obtained by someone who's super intelligent. Just
Including
ask
heat
from the
vision.
start,
I
right?
just want to throw it. Yeah, exactly. Yes, up to and including heat vision. So there it is. Are we moving? Are we moving up? If we are moving up, it's because we got to lead with the head. That's how evolution is going to occur, and we'll pick this up on Friday. But Stephen, what is our music?
Our music tonight is "This Time" by the Crash Moderns.
The Crash Moderns singing This Time. Thank you so much, Stephen, for putting that together. As I said, we're going to pick this topic up on Friday. We're going to talk about human evolution going the other way. What if we're about to become obsolete? I hope you'll all be able to join us for that. And until next time, live to see it.
Can't you wait around? I think I'm going down. Remind me how it feels to feel we're not that different, you and I. I'm not the subtle kind. I wasn't hard to find when I'm the guy that's standing here. Memory laps and photographs that don't look right. When your world stops spinning and my mind stops tripping this time. When I feel less scattered, you're the one that matters this time around. I'm waiting at the phone, you're coming up unknown. I need to hear your voice to make me understand that I'm not coming undone. And maybe you're the one to come and make me whole again. Memory laps and photographs that don't look right. When your world stops spinning and my mind stops tripping this time.